Future Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guest. Hurry hard is a game that you commonly, or a phrase that you commonly hear in curling rinks in any community. I know that some of you thought that I brought this broom here today as a form of my transportation. However, the reason that I brought this broom is to talk to you a little bit about curling and encourage you to get involved and to tell you why it's not too late to get involved in curling. All you need to curl is a broom, curling shoes, or a slider. I also encourage people to use a gripper, as I've fallen on the ice many times before I purchased this gripper. Good teammates, and a good curling toque. For those of you that don't know a lot about the sport of curling, it's been around since the 16th century, and a lot of people call it the game, which is chess on ice. So for those of you that don't know a lot about curling, you have two teams that consist of 4 players: the lead, the second, the third, and the skip. And the goal of the game is you take heavy rocks and you push them to the other end of the ice, to the center, which is called the house, which is a circle in the middle of the ice. And the goal of the game is to score the most points. And how you score the most points is whoever has their rocks closest to the center of the house. So that's kind of the concept of the game of curling. One of the reasons that I got involved in curling was because my husband made me. So that was certainly one of the reasons that I got involved. And I said to him, you know, maybe I'm too old to curl. Like, I've never curled before. I never curled as a kid. And he said, it's a game for life, Erin. It's a game that you can start when you're a kid, as an adult. And so he encouraged me to start curling. And one of the things that I love to see at the curling rink is when you see a family that plays as a team. You can see a kid that's 6 years old to a grandpa that are all curling together on a team, and that's one of the things that I love about curling. So it really doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter, you know, when you start curling, because really curling is a game of life. And just talking to people in the community that curl out of our curling club, they've been curling for years, and their family curled, and their dads curled, their grandpas curled, and so it really is a game that you can play forever. And so that's one of the things that I really like about curling. Not only is it about family, but it is about community as well. So it's a great way to be entertained. It's a great way to socialize in your community. And when I grew up in Arborg, I always think about, if there wasn't a curling rink or a hockey rink, I would have been so bored living there. So just getting involved in your community, curling is a great way to be able to do that. And so I certainly encourage people to get involved, not only because they enjoy the sport, but it's a great way to just be involved in your local community. One of the other reasons that I love curling is it really promotes working as a team. And you use teamwork in every aspect of your life, whether it's in your job or at home, and curling really promotes teamwork. And I think about my team, Team Bardo Stag, and we really need to work on our teamwork in curling because we either don't curl consistently as a team, or my husband is yelling at our skip because he doesn't know how to call shots. So I know that we need to work on our teamwork, but curling really emphasizes how to work as a team and a group, and you can use that in every part of your life. So I wanted to share a picture with you today. This is a picture of me wearing a gold medal in curling. Unfortunately, it's not mine. I borrowed it from John Mead, who won a gold medal in the men's World Championships. But he let me borrow this medal, and it's probably the only time I'll get to wear a gold medal in curling. However, one of the reasons that I choose to curl is because it's fun, it gets me out of the house, it keeps me in good shape, and it gives me an opportunity to socialize with my friends. So when summer's over and you don't want to sit on the couch and you're looking for different ways to spend your time, I certainly consider that you call your local curling club and get involved. Thank you.
Well, Charlene Hebert is going to do her icebreaker speech.
Good morning, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guest. Trial by fire. ClichéSite.com defines trial by fire as to gain experience by being in a stressful situation. To put myself in a trial by fire is one of my favorite ways to learn new skills. It gets hot fast. What a great way to learn. After high school, I determined that I was more behind in life skills than any other person growing up, not growing up where I did. So in my early 20s, I put myself in stressful situations to quickly gain the real life experience I thought I needed. For example, to be self-sufficient. I grew up very sheltered in Steinbach, or Meadowland as I like to call it. Mennonites on land. There. I was always told how to think. I was always told what to think and how to act. Well, don't get me wrong, I didn't grow up in a colony, but it was everybody knew everybody, and it's a very small town with small town thinking. So after determining that the highest aspiration a girl had was to get married and have babies, I figured there had to be something more to life as I wasn't interested in that. I knew it was a very different life outside of Steinbach, so I was determined to get unsheltered in a hurry. After working at a greenhouse in Kleefeld for about 2 years, I found my passion for flowers, and I decided to pursue horticulture as my bailiwick. I registered at a college out of province that had a residence on campus, Old College in Alberta. At least my basic needs would be met, and then I could just learn how to meet new people, focus on my skills of meeting new people. Well, the day my parents dropped me off at res was one of the scariest days of my life. I didn't know a soul, I didn't know how this worked, and I didn't know what to do. After having several panic attacks about, oh my goodness, what did I do? I decided I'd come this far and I was going to make the best of it. Well, that evening in res, I did spend my whole evening inside my dorm, peering outside of my peephole at the sound of every noise. But in the morning, I mustered up my courage and headed down to the cafeteria for breakfast, and sat and made myself sit beside the very first person I saw. Jen was very friendly, and we were very quickly friends. So I'll be okay, I thought, and I was. One of my friends in college was very outgoing and fearless. He was from Calgary, so he knew very much about being self-sufficient. Well, he found out that Old College had an exchange program to the University of Melbourne in Australia. Well, when Wade announced that he was going there for his second year, I decided that I wanted to go too. Not only would this really get me away from Steinbach, this would be an awesome experience for me to show me what I'm really made of. Well, we made arrangements to spend the second year of school at Unimelb, that's what the Aussies call it. Or actually, he made all the arrangements and I watched him. Well, the day we landed in Sydney, Australia, was the scariest day of my life. No parents, one friend, limited instructions, and no place to live. It was a bit overwhelming since our campus didn't have a residence, so we had to find our own flat to rent. The only place I had gone before that was to California to visit family, so traveling to another continent, on the other side of the world, with someone I hardly knew, was a lot to handle. Well, I pretty much followed Wade around and trusted that he'd make it work, and he did. I learned so much from him over that year, and really had to stretch out of my comfort zone to put myself in situations to learn the much needed life skills. And oh yeah, studying horticulture in Australia is pretty cool too. They have the most beautiful plants there, I think salmon eucalyptus. It was a blessing to take that leap of faith and be able to study for a year out there. Okay, 2 major comfort zone challenges done, on to go. After completing my diploma in Australia, I came back to Winnipeg for a year. Once I realized that Winnipeg's not the place to pursue year-round horticultural endeavors, I decided that BC was the place to go, and I was going to go on my own. I wanted to test my knowledge of being self-sufficient and see if I could put to use all the skills I had learned in the previous 2 years. When a friend decided to go traveling in Thailand for the winter and depart from Vancouver Airport, I I volunteered to drive him there and relocate to BC at the same time. Well, when I dropped Darren off at the airport and said goodbye, that was the scariest day of my life. I was all by myself, with no place to live, no job, no friends, and I had all my belongings in my car. I booked a hostel in downtown Vancouver and spent the days job hunting. I decided that I wanted to live with students so that I could meet new people. However, most of the students with rooms to rent were Asian, so there was a language barrier. It was not a good start. I spent the most of my time driving and getting lost, having to navigate the big city by myself. Moving to BC by myself was one of the most challenging situations I've ever put myself in. And I put myself there on purpose, but I nearly gave up. But eventually I found a place to live, a job, found a job at a greenhouse and made friends. I find myself back in Winnipeg for various reasons, but by 25 I knew I could live almost anywhere and be okay. So by being in several trials by fire has served me well. I of course prefer if these stressful situations are self-induced, because I know I have good reason to be there and only myself to blame. It's taken me 2 years to muster up the courage to join Toastmasters, another trial by fire, to learn public speaking, but here I am, so let the learning begin.